Win the top 2-0 on the first day of Group B match. This is good news for us. Our strategy worked and we are in leading position.
Totally demolished DetonatioN.
Today our task is clear. Win more and smash our opponents.
Nós tivemos um começo bem difícil. A parte mais difícil e mais importante está apenas começando. Nós não vamos desistir e estaremos prontos para os verdadeiros desafios.
이번 MSI에서 이기고 지는 건 눈 깜빡할 사이에 지나가는 걸 알았습니다. 모든 팀이 이기고 싶어서 사소한 거 하나하나 중요한 것 같습니다. 말을 많이 하는 것 대신에 꼭에서 보여드리겠습니다.
先日の試合内容には満足していません。ミスもありましたし、期待通りに動けない場面もありました。でもそれを反省して練習してきました。今日は負けません。
Group A concluded with a back-and-forth tiebreaker where Vietnam's own Phong-Vu Buffalo came on top. Now we see who will get their shot at playoff knockouts from Group B with the conclusion of the group today. Now my name is Dan Rek'Sai, alongside my bunk buddy for all things Group B. It's none other than Isaac. I want to keep calling you Isaac. I'm absolutely trolling you. Isaac Azale Cummings Bentley.
You got a small brain. You've known me for a long time.
I can only... All right, whatever. We're just going to drop that one and we're going to continue forward. It's MSI, folks. And as I mentioned at the start of the day, Phong-Vu Buffalo won out in Group A, which earned them the right to play Team Liquid tomorrow.
That's true. And today's games will have DetonatioN FocusMe, INTZ, Vega Squadron, and Mega battling for their spot out of Group B, which will pit the winner in a best-of-5 opposite the Flash Wolves tomorrow. The day is going to start with INTZ looking to pick up their first win against DetonatioN FocusMe.
Then, of course, Vega Squadron from the LCL hope to end the first round robin with a 3-0 as they go up against Mega. And as we get ready, it's time to look at the players taking to the stage for Game 1. And on the blue side, it's going to be none other than DetonatioN FocusMe from Japan. In the top lane, Evie. In the jungle, Steel. Mid lane, Ceros. Bot lane, Yutapon. Support, Gaeng, and Coach Kazu. And of course, if you're hoping DFM will find a top spot in this group, you got to believe it will come from their top laner, Evie.
Yeah, Evie has been honestly a monster both in his own league and getting some stretching done, getting ready for the game, but also he has shown up internationally too. Really been an impressive force, I think, for the squad. And, you know, they are starting here against INTZ from Brazil. They had a rough first day, and this is certainly a team you want to be able to take down if they want to keep pace with Vega, who is looking so damn good.
And for INTZ, it is all on the line. Their roster, Tay in the top lane, jungler Shini, mid lane Envy, bot lane Mills, support RedBert, and their coach Maestro. Now, currently they're last in the group, and INTZ really need a fresh start coming into today. They can't really afford to lose all 3 games in the first round robin. They definitely have a lot of pressure as they look to make CB Law proud.
Yeah, certainly not. I mean, because only one team gets out of the group, if you go 0-3, your only hope then is a 4-way 3-3 tie, right? Like, you're essentially doomed if you lose this game. Maybe not mathematically, but realistically, there's not much chance to get out. So, you know, there is going to be a lot of pressure on this squad, and I will say a player to watch is Shini. He looked really good to me still on day 1, especially his Gragas game, I thought was very clean, both in pathing and in his actual execution of his ganks. Was really looking good, but they're going to need to kind of bring it more together, because even in that game, they did eventually kind of fall behind and kind of really sort of struggle in the late game team fights.
And it does feel like we need to see overall a resurgence. Shini did have a few moments, but now we need to see the whole team kind of come together in this matchup against DetonatioN FocusMe, because we saw when Mega were kind of disjointed in the first game that they played against DFM, DFM just went full scaling and just took the game to the late game. And we saw also with INTZ them getting outscaled as well. So it feels like there needs to be a little bit more coordination, a little bit more proactive play from the INTZ side.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that there's really high expectations from their fans. You know, they took down the favorites Flamengo in their finals. That is who everyone assumed was going to come from the CB LOL and represent an MSI. You know, the fans were already, I think, kind of disappointed almost that there was this upset that happened. Their perceived best team didn't make it. So So INTZ definitely want to prove their fans wrong, prove that they deserve their spot here, and to do so, they're going to have to start picking up wins.
Yeah, going to need to start here against Detonation FocusMe, DFM on the blue side, INTZ on the red. See what adjustments come in. You heard from Ceros in the feature earlier today. Hey, we've made the necessary adjustments. We're ready to come in today. We're ready to find every win at every opportunity. For now, though, things remain pretty stock standard. Rise Band coming out as INTZ debate their options.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where these teams do go. There has been such variety so far in Group B as far as what sort of champions people want to pick, what sort of styles they want to play. Group A, I would say, is more kind of to expectation as far as when you're comparing to kind of the Big Five, the major regions. These teams have been playing such a variety of different picks, things like the Kale, which even post-nerf, a lot of people weren't expecting to get play. You know, Ceros turned in a couple of Ziggs games. He's known for his Heimerdinger, which is what we're seeing getting banned away. So there's a lot of different options here for these teams.
And already seeing a lot of bans kind of targeted at the mid lane. Rise, of course, a flex pick with Little Blanc and Heimer. As you mentioned, comfort pick for Ceros. See if INTZ want to continue that trend. And I wonder if Evi's champion pool will get any hits. But before Evi can even go on the board, of course, the Sona Taric that was so effective for DFM in their game versus Mega is now limited, is now taken away, and understandable. If you don't have a lot of experience playing against it, it seems like such a powerful strategy that is just so incredibly frustrating to deal with.
Yeah, and honestly, even teams that do have quite a bit of experience against it still seem to struggle at times to really be able to close out games against it. And Sona Taric, I think, is also, you know, it's a pretty forgiving style of comp that you can play. If another team does fail their execution, can't burst anyone down whatsoever, and Taric ult's gonna land, you're gonna get healed back up, and there's a lot of reasons that you'd want to see that taken out.
Kindred now banned as well. Interesting, another piece of that full scaling, impossible to kill comp. You know, the Taric, the Sona, the Kale, they had literally all those pieces. It seemed impossible to get it to the point where it would work in that game versus Mega, but DFM were able to pull it out. You can see now confidence on Evi's face. Now, Galio locked in almost immediately, most likely going to the hands of Gaeng. And Gaeng is a player that I always have my eye on when it comes to DFM because he has been such a proactive playmaker across their series in the LJL. And INTZ taking their time on this one. Early Xerath lock-in would be a surprise, but whatever Envy wants, I'm sure he will get as one of the strongest performing members of the team. Hecarim, though, instead will be the lock-in.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see if that actually did get locked in. But yeah, speak a little bit more about Gaeng. I do think one of the greatest strengths that he actually had for his team was his roaming play. You know, when he played Tahm Kench in the finals, he certainly looked very, very strong. I did feel, you know, being able to actually play in the side lanes considerably well. He's also a strong engaged player, has played a lot of Recon games. So, you know, these are guys with very, very deep champion pools, and you know, as such, it is harder to kind of expect where some of the champions may go. The Rek'Sai Hecarim being locked in does give you a lot of dive already. It gives you a very strong early game ganking jungler. It will give Evi the ability to kind of counterpick top here, though, despite the fact that he is on blue side. If he did want to go for it now, he could lock in an early top laner. And you know, especially if he wants to go for a split push style, which we have seen him play quite a bit, you know, bringing things out like the Yorick regionally. Vladimir, I think, you know, is something that can be a pretty good answer, and you know, he gets the pick of the litter.
Absolutely, and in the Vega game, which was a bit of a struggle for DFM, Evi was definitely the strongest performance, and it was on this Vladimir as well. So good to see a comfort pick going back into his hands, and interesting to see kind of a premier jungle matchup in the Rek'Sai and the Jarvan get picked up. In Group A, we were so used to kind of different champion pools, with Kire kind of making his name there, so many teams playing around what he would bring to the table. But if we're rounding out with the Tahm Kench, two very roam-focused supports for each of the teams.
Yeah, definitely the case. Both Galio and Tahm Kench can make their presence felt in those side lanes. I do favor the Vladimir, though, as you're going kind of further into the game to be able to take over in that 1v1 if that is where we do end up, you know, with that kind of split push style. But you know, Forte on this Hecarim, which we're certainly expecting to be top, barring any sort of crazy lane swap to mid or whatever, you know, it's much more about kind of getting through lane and then having such powerful engage in the team fight. You know, they do need a couple of forms of, I think, kind of consistent damage when it does come to that team fight for Envy and for Mills as well, because this is like fairly bursty damage coming out of the side of INTZ that they have drafted, but there's not a lot of consistent DPS.
Yeah, it may be a bit of a struggle to execute on, and rounding out the composition is going to be critical here. Maybe we see more of a hyper carry style for Mills. Not necessarily what he's known for. Often when they pick this Tahm Kench, they like to pair it with utility bot laners. Maybe his Ashe will be seen, but would put a lot of pressure onto mid lane to be the damage source. Karma and Kai'Sa now the bans. DFM will take their final ban and it will be the Corki, so limiting the hyper carry options for Envy.
Yeah, I think the Corki makes a lot of sense to take off the table. It is a magic damage mid laner. You can obviously put it bot as well, but you know they're all physical damage right now on the side of INTZ. They do need a high damage, consistent kind of source there. So when you think of that, you do think of things like perhaps Ryze, you think of Cassio, you think of Azir, you know, champions along those lines, but Ryze is obviously already off the table. Cassio and Azir were not played at all by Envy throughout this year. So, you know, when you do look at his champion pool, kind of most of the consistent damage options are already off the table.
Yeah, and now kind of saving that last pick, we're going to have to see how deep his champion pool goes. Sylas making it this far through the pick and ban phase, something that Evie had a decent amount of success on. Maybe we see the Vladimir go mid for Ceros. We're going to have to find out. And I like picking up a flex pick here for this team because it is going to limit the value of that last pick on the red side.
And we are certainly expecting the Vladimir to go top 2, Evie, because Ceros hasn't played it throughout their split. Doesn't mean he can't, but it is Evie's most played, you know. That is tied alongside, though, the Sylas, and I really do like this DFM composition. You know, Vladimir to actually amp up the damage with the ultimate for someone like the Sivir. You know, popping the ultimate to charge in. You have pretty strong engage with J4 Galio. You have consistent DPS. We're gonna have to see where INTZ goes, and even the Sylas is another one of those champions that Envy does like to play and is taken away. So Nautilus will be the option. But this is what I see as a very early game comp. You know, this is a team that I think really does kind of lack consistent DPS. Yes, you can have the Hecarim and the Ashe, you know, being threats in the later stages, but when you're comparing, you know, across the board and looking at how powerful this late game composition is for DFM, I think you need to get things done very, very early. I think as soon as you hit 6 on the side of INTZ, you need to be looking for fights, you need to be forcing out objectives. You're looking at champions like Hecarim, Nautilus, Ashe. You have incredibly strong, consistent engage, but if you get, you know, post 30 minutes against the Sylas, who has so many good ultimates to steal, Vladimir, who is amping this Sivir's damage with strong, consistent frontline engage from the Galio and J4, I don't give INTZ much chance.
It's going to be very difficult early game execution. They did get outscaled last time. Maybe this time they can find a strong, aggressive early game, and just the sheer amount of sustain between a Sylas and a Vladimir, two champions who rely very heavily on it for their trade patterns, and only a single ignite. I feel like grievous wounds are going to be crucial. On top of the fact that your damage is already low, if you ever fall behind, it just feels like you're never going to kill a Vladimir.
Yeah, I mean, I think they do have good damage in the early stages, but once you really get later, you do need kind of higher amount of consistent DPS to knock these guys down, and we'll see if that ever does become a problem, because they certainly have the ability to end the game early with this style of composition. You have such powerful engage, you have such good team fighting ground objectives, and if they can get that sort of advantage and be really far ahead, you know, when that late game does arrive, they'll be fine, or perhaps they can even close it out before that happens. But it's going to be down to execution, I think, very heavily here for INTZ.
And here we are, ladies and gentlemen. Detonation FocusMe 1-1 in the group so far, looking to find a win, looking to move up and contest Vega at the top of the group, while INTZ need to find a win to stop themselves from going down in the first round robin. 0-3 start would make it nigh impossible for them to make it out. Would require a real miracle for them to contest in some tiebreakers. Already seeing a bit of aggression on the level 1. Jarvan flag throw down for Vision. See what Detonation FocusMe want to do here. And as you mentioned, Tizeo, a lot of eyes on the early game. Not going to connect there on the abduct.
That would have actually been pretty big. Probably could have got a summoner out. I think that perhaps we could have seen Ceros be a little bit more patient with that, try to, you know, make sure he was going to connect. But either way, nothing too much happening here in these early minutes at level 1. I do think that Ceros is going to have to play very carefully in the early game. Nautilus has some of, if not the best gank assistance for a jungler. Rek'Sai is such a strong early game jungler as well. So especially, you know, post level 3, once Rek'Sai has all of her abilities, Envy can set up for that so easily, both with his dredge line, but also with the passive root. The E also slows. Like, there's just so many ways to actually kind of lock down and set up for your Rek'Sai.
And Envy and Shini were the duo that carried this team through their playoffs finals. So seeing them have a duo that has so much synergy, so much gank assist, does feel like a big threat for Ceros in the mid lane. And honestly, Ceros' first real test, as we see some level 1 trading here, trade of Aftershocks, as he's just been playing Ziggs, honestly. He's been neutralizing a lot of lane matchups as opposed to trying to dominate or come out on top. Individual lead, so we'll see more from him in this game, and stealing away the blue buff early in the game. Rek'Sai has already started top side, but it will force top to bot jungling.
Yeah, so they will be kind of splitting the map here, and this does allow them to perhaps play more towards that bottom side. Galio does provide very good gank assist there. We'll see if he wants to try to actually contest that as blue, or if they will fully give that up. For now, you are expecting Heavy to be having to sacrifice in the early levels anyway. As the Vladimir, you are going to get shoved in. You are going to be on the back foot until you get more of that CDR, more of those levels. So this may just be saying, hey, I wouldn't be able to contest on the top side anyway because my Vladimir is going to be too weak of a laner in the early games. And I think that makes a lot of sense, right? So you say, Vladimir, you play defensive, we split the other side of the map, and that way you're never going to be kind of stuck in this 2v2 that you couldn't win regardless.
You can already see Hecarim using some of that lane pressure to come down to make sure that Shini can just take complete control of this jungle, both mid and top, pushing heavily in the favor of INTZ. So if Jarvan wants to make a play, it does feel a little bit limited as to where he can go, just given, you know, the threat of Rek'Sai being in his jungle at any moment.
He has done a kind of full bot side clear of INTZ's jungle. He's sitting in that tri-brush, so I think they're actually threatening a dive. It looks like they are actually going for a dive, perhaps. I'm just watching the mini-map right now.
Lane, first blood. Well, it does go down. We'll get you a replay. It's a one-for-one trade. Not entirely sure what happened, but we'll keep you guys posted.
Yeah, I mean, it was a dive. I could see him setting up on the mini-map there in that tri-brush. He clears those 3 camps. He looks for bot. They are able to pull off the dive. Unfortunate that we didn't get to see it, but it is first blood going to Yutapon. Thankfully for Mills, he was able to actually trade back there, and now mid lane.
Engage in the mid lane, the bite gonna come out, it's gonna be enough. Ceros forced to flash away. So the mid lane gank kind of as predicted. Good setup for Nautilus, and Ceros has the luxury of the TP here. Can come back to lane if needed. A lot of damage there onto Mills, but already a lot of action here in this game.
Yeah, a lot of action early on. I do really like the early game planning. I like the draft. I think DFM is coming this with a very intelligent game plan. They attacked Envy's champion pool very, very heavily. And here now we will get this replay. Steel had done a full camp clear on that right side of the map. Taunt Flash does get cleansed out, but EQ through for the knockup. Yutapon picks up first blood. Steel just not able to get out. Gaeng should have been tanking up a little bit more on that turret because he's the one who actually started off that play. I think he could have taken, you know, a couple turret shots with his aftershock there. And perhaps it was that Jarvan took aggro with the flag before the taunt flash came through. I'm not positive. Either way, you would have wanted to see Gaeng take a couple more turret shots, then the Jarvan takes aggro after that, and I think they could have gotten the first blood and gotten out scot-free.
Yeah, we'll have to keep our eyes on that execution as we move further into the game. Now, both AD carries getting a kill, ultimately not too consequential, but it was Ashe losing out on multiple waves on the bottom side, so it's ultimately the biggest factor there.
Yeah, and it's first blood, right? So you get the additional gold from that early kill, plus you have the additional farm, and it looks like Steel wants to threaten this once more. You know that there is no flash on either one of these members. There's no cleanse on RedBert, so there is the potential to threaten this. But for now, just kind of taking the Gromp away. Shini will be walking down towards that bottom side, and Jarvan going to be running into him here.
They go for the fight on the scuttle, but it's challenging Smite versus double longsword. Steel able to grab it away and retreat. He's going to put a much more comfortable position, though, for Mills and RedBert, is knowing they have their jungler now on the bottom side of the map.
Yeah, and look at all the vision along this river, right? There's 2 pinks. There's also the scuttle crab that has been taken there. So a lot of vision to actually protect them. You know, in that area, they know that they are kind of vulnerable at this point in the game, that it was vertical jungling set up by DFM, and Steel and Ceros now going to move in and try to remove some of that vision to keep that threat high. But still, they will have to be careful. Shini is up a level on Steel here, and certainly you would expect him to win that duel. Ceros also has no flash, and Envy is almost level 6, and once you do hit level 6 with the Nautilus, you can look.
Oh, but level 6 comes in for the Sylas first, takes the ult before Nautilus even gets a chance, but just throws it out for a bit of harass with Rek'Sai there. Didn't have the option to go for the all-in. Jarvan, though, I think saps a little bit of mid lane XP and is able to grab his level 5.
Yeah, so it's pretty well done. I mean, you're going to trade your ultimate out for the flash of Envy, and he's going to have his own coming up first. Still, Ceros will have to be careful until his flash is back. Envy will be down a summoner, but still has ultimate, and Shini will be getting level 6 relatively soon. That is when it's going to get really, really scary. There's so much burst that can come through from this squad. It will be DFM starting up the Dragon, though, as Mills has gone back to base, and Shini not really going to be able to contest this.
Yeah, good use of the bot lane priority. Steel camping bot lane for so long, but they really just are not tanky enough to force this one through. Steel not having gone back and bought much of anything, and Rek'Sai enough of a threat now. He approaches level 6 to make sure to dissuade that option.
Yeah.
Tay, though, taking some time in the mid lane. May just try to go in with the ultimate, a lot of CC, but the dash out is nice. The knockup still comes in, and Ceros goes down. Shini gonna grab the kill in the end. Well executed by INTZ.
Yeah, really nice roam down from Tay. They're able to take down Ceros quite easily. I do think DFM could have committed to the Dragon. It felt like a very risk-averse choice. Perhaps, you know, that makes sense when you look at the compositions, right? When you're kind of taking into consideration game state. They didn't need to try to force this. This is just really well done, though. Hook into ultimate, the knockback from that charge, from Hecarim pushing him back away from the turret. Very, very easy execution onto Ceros. One thing it's also kind of worth talking about here, too, is how effective I think, you know, Zhonya's is going to be, both for the armor on the Seekers, both for Vladimir and the Sylas in the mid lane, but also because when you're fighting against a Nautilus, it's such an obvious ultimate that you can actually immune that with the Zhonya, so even in that 1v1 matchup can be quite effective.
So Seekers does come out, not a lot of cooldown reduction for the Vlad, which will kind of slow down a lot of his laning threat, but will make it a lot more comfortable for him to just survive. And that kind of is the name of the game, right? Once again, the pressure is on INTZ to pull off this more aggressive early game, to snowball a bit. And they traded the 1-for-1 on bot side. They got that play mid, but it does feel like as these level 6s are starting to come in, that they need to do a little bit more to extend this lead.
Yeah, and I do really like that roam from Tay. That is the kind of play that you want to see them consistently making, right? You want to see them, every time you have ultimates, try to force a play, because their early game is very, very powerful. Their team fighting very powerful as well, and they do have, you know, TP Ignite Hecarim. When that ultimate comes back up, he can look to make another play. Ashe is now level 6, so there's multiple forms of engage on the INTZ squad, and it's just going to be up to them to kind of find those opportunities, because Gaeng certainly can respond to engages very well himself on the Galio. He can look to try to turn those around, and if you can't burst someone down, the fight does have the chance of kind of swinging back in DFM.
I'm curious to see how both these teams move around the map. We talked about RedBert and Gaeng both being guys who like to roam, who like to set up these plays map wide. And if we're not just going to see, you know, immediate aggressive plays with the power of ultimates, maybe we see a bit more map play, a bit more rotational play as both teams move around. For now, however, it seems to be, you know, slowed down a little bit. Just that one gank in the mid lane. Flash now back up for Ceros, so trying to find the perfect time. Ceros does take a lot of damage here, though. The ulti now coming out. Shini gonna look to land the Prey Seeker and follow up with the ulti, but it might not even be necessary. The sidestep, though, beautiful from Ceros. The flash gets a bit of damage down, uses the ulti. Well, Ceros still alive, goes under himself, makes it out! I can't believe it! Oh, Ceros takes a bite out of Rek'Sai. What a turn!
That was so sick. The heal from Kingslayer coming through, steals Rek'Sai's ultimate, and is able to use it in combination with that turret to take him down. It looked like Ceros was dead to rights, but that was a sick outplay onto Shini. The whole thing was really all about dodging that Prey Seeker. If he doesn't dodge the Prey Seeker, he just straight up dies. And look at this initial burst from the Nautilus, very well played. Gets his full combo off onto Ceros. Ceros is looking very, very dead, but then the sidestep on that just barely doesn't get executed. It looked like the Prey, I don't even know, the ultimate essentially went off at the same time as the Kingslayer there. That was a very interesting interaction. It seemed like he got the heal almost before the Rek'Sai ultimate damage came through, and I think that is due to the travel time of the Rek'Sai ultimate. It seems like he reveals from the Unburrow before the damage actually came through, and in that tiny, tiny window, I believe Ceros got off the Kingslayer, heals back up, barely survives it. That was crazy.
Honestly, just a stunning outplay there coming in, and that's, I think, teaching a lot of people about how that interaction apparently works. Sylas main's feeling a little bit more comfortable in solo queue after that one, but
yeah,
just a stunning outplay for Ceros, and that's such bad news now for INTZ. The good news is they get the Rift Herald, but in the meantime they've lost the Dragon, and things are only going to get more difficult as Ceros is surviving in a lane that we thought would be a source of so many kills in the early game.
Yeah, certainly they were wanting that, and the first kill looks pretty easy to get. They have actually gone for the lane swap now here. INTZ off the back of that. They did grab Rift Herald, so it's going to be really close. Looks like INTZ likely will be able to get first turret, though.
Puts them in a good position now, a little bit of extra gold in their pockets, and actually able to accrue a 1K gold lead despite an even score line. That will shift, of course, as this tower does go back. Tower plating still up for the Sivir as well, and a lot of solo gold actually going over to Yutapon. Already has one whole completed item, and seems to be happy with the amount of attention he's been getting. Has set him up to succeed on the bottom side of the map.
Yeah, you know, just their game plan was honestly very, very intelligent. Steel being able to go down to kind of his strong lane, find the plays around that, and get the Sivir into a nice, advantageous position. So certainly Yutapon set up well for success at this point of the game. You can see Steel is also going Cinderhulk. I don't think he needs to be anything other than the front line when you have Sivir, Vladimir, and the Sylas. That is so much damage already.
Yeah, it feels like it might be enough.
Yeah, like you just need to kind of make space for those guys. And DFM now going to park Yutapon mid lane. This is just about wave clear, delay the game. And Sivir can certainly do that with the Essence Reaver. Not only are you having more utility with the CDR for your ultimate, but you're constantly refilling your mana bar every time you're auto-attacking. So you can essentially infinitely wave clear here in the mid lane. And they'll send Sylas and Vladimir out to the side lanes and just 1-3-1, try to force INTZ to respond to them, which will just slow down the game.
Ideal situation now, it feels like, for Detonation FocusMe. I mean, Essence Reaver, it's an infinite wave clear. Vladimir's sitting quite comfortably, and it feels like INTZ, who aren't historically a crazy aggressive team, are going to have to be willing to make big aggressive plays to break down what is honestly like a perfect setup for stall on the side of Detonation FocusMe. They even have a mountain when they want to contest objectives later, and you know, when you got 5 members strong for a team fight, it just feels like, how are INTZ actually going to fight around a Baron against this team?
Yeah, and I mean, things can certainly change, you know, if INTZ can out-execute, right? If you can get an Ashe arrow, you know, out of vision on Sivir so you can't spell shield it, kill her right off the bat at the start of the fight, then even late game you can still win fights. But, you know, given all things going even, you are certainly giving the favor to DFM, you know, both in the 1-3-1 as well as in that 5v5. So INTZ will have to engage, but thankfully for them, Hecarim, Ashe, and Nautilus are 3 of the best in the business at doing it. So they certainly will have their opportunities, but I want to see them continue to play aggressive. I think that the Infernal is really an important place for them to try to force, because that is going to be in about 1 minute. They're all going to have their first major item completions. They should be looking to focus getting vision around that area now, and they do have 3 pink wards already in that river, so if they can get there first, they can force a fight there, or just take the objective. It would bode well for them.
And see if they can get some picks. Of course, when we look back at the final that they played in CBLOL versus Flamenco, it was really Shini and Envy together, you know, teaming up, finding picks to make those big plays, taking off individual members to open up objectives on the map. And I wonder, with this Rek'Sai Nautilus duo, if we'll start to see them team up to do some of the same here against Detonation FocusMe. But DFM also a very cautious team, throwing down vision, trying to play very safe around it though. We'll have to face check eventually here, and you can see Rek'Sai kind of lurking in the shadows, waiting to find that opportunity.
Yeah, certainly the case, and I think both teams have done a really good job of actually battling back and forth for vision in this bottom side river. Has been such an important point in the game to contest, and Tay now roaming down, has pushed out top wave, so we'll have priority there. They're looking for the engage.
Ooh, arrow misses though. Are they going to continue to try to go for the play? Vladimir off to the side, has hit 2. Shini potentially in trouble, has the ability to drop a little bit of aggro with the Rek'Sai ultimate. Now the Galio is going to be locked in with the Cataclysm. Ashe taken out to safety. A lot of summoners burned on the side of INTZ. Trade back and forth. Does feel like DFM came out on top, but no one actually going to drop here.
Yeah, pretty close, honestly, on both sides. I mean, you have a lot of ultimates used on either side. Ceros does still have his available, but Tay critically having that Hecarim ultimate. Rek'Sai, the ultimate is up as well, so those ones are pretty big. It was INTZ trying to start that fight off, but Mills not able to find anyone with the arrow, and we'll see if DFM is even willing to take this fight. I think without getting any sort of major advantage or pick, they likely just have to seed the dragon, and it will be the case.
No level 11 for Vladimir yet, as well as no ulti. Does make it a bit difficult to fight those fights, so INTZ, good posturing, good threat there. And taking the dragon as well. And it feels like kind of just sizing each other up. You know, round 1 of the fight, they just wanted to see, was there going to be any mis-execution, like testing each other, looking for those vulnerabilities. And maybe they can try to capitalize on the Tahm Kench lack of flash, but otherwise, it does feel like we might just see patient play until the next major objective comes out.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is honestly pretty intelligent play on both sides. DFM, if they were able to get a pick and have a major advantage, then they can challenge for the Infernal. But, you know, given that they weren't able to do so, you do favor INTZ in the fight. So they are able to grab that Infernal and erase a little bit of any potential scaling advantage that DFM will have. We'll see, though, as DFM certainly has, I think, the kind of pace of the game in their favor.
And also, Mills now sitting very comfortably in the mid lane with RedBert. And while Ashe wave clear is definitely not, doesn't feel as oppressive as Sivir wave clear, can very comfortably push this out and start to roam with the power of the arrow, with the power of the Tahm Kench. And maybe Evie has to feel a little less comfortable on this side lane up against the Hecarim. Does not have the Hourglass completed, has opted for the Proto Belt, so a bit more burst for him, but a bit less survivability.
Yeah, probably going to go into the Zhonya's next. Either way, Seeker is just such an efficient item when you think, okay, well, who's actually going to come and try to kill you? It's going to be Hecarim and Rek'Sai most likely. Both are physical damage dealers, so that is going to be fairly easy for him to deal with. And the longer he holds Hecarim in this side lane, just farming and kind of trading back and forth, the better it is here for Evie. So we'll see how long he's going to be able to do that. INTZ having their ultimates come back up now. Mills has that Crystal Arrow available. Nautilus has the ultimate now too, so they can look to try to push out the sideways group and see if there's any opportunities to force.
And just huge damage now coming from Yutapon as well, going for the IE second, so a lot of AD, not so concerned about attack speed, but definitely improving the wave clear even further with the Boomerang Blade. And Evie did this a lot on the Kayle game as well. He absolutely loves just taking Krugs when he's in a side lane, farming up, taking those resources, and it seems like DFM as a team are aware of how good he is and are just willing to put resources into him. Yeah,
and I think it makes a lot of sense. You know, you have a tank Jarvan over here. He's not going to get nearly as much from the gold, you know, as the Vladimir will. Vladimir scales like an absolute monster into the late game, and in competitive play, you know, Steel on this Jarvan is having to play around his bot lane so often anyway. He doesn't necessarily have time to go down there and farm all these camps. So, you know, Evie gonna make the most of that. Will be taking any additional farm he can grab, but it is a 3-man INTZ squad heading down towards Evie, and they may look for some sort of a dive here, but Vladimir can be very difficult to dive.
Has just used the Proto Belt for a wave clear though. Is now gonna start the back. Are they gonna go for it? I don't know if they have the confidence to pull the trigger. Oh, has opted to stay now, so it could move in. Of course, next trick will be the Ocean, so setting up on bot side isn't the worst thing in the world. It does feel pretty natural choice, and they'll now move up and get a bit more vision in the river, take a bit more control on the bottom side. But interesting to see INTZ send 3 members down there and then end up not committing to the play.
Yeah, perhaps just hoping that, you know, Evie would get a little bit over aggressive, you know, start wave clearing or trying to push forward off of his tower, maybe even check for some vision. And in that case, you certainly could take him down, but you know, when you do go down there, if you don't have eyes on all 5 members, it can be very risky. You know, Gaeng is not that far away from being able to kind of roam down and respond with a Galio ultimate. You know, there is TP on Ceros, so there are abilities for DFM to try to respond to any potential dive, and INTZ just wasn't really feeling fully confident that they could make it happen.
And both teams are giving each other so much respect. If we look at just the vision on the map, no one's really pushing into enemy territory. They control a river at best. You can see DFM control their top side in vision, bot side a bit more on the side of INTZ, but no one is using a little bit of mid-priority to push in for deeper vision. They're giving so much respect to the potential for a turn, for a dive, for that Galio or Tahm, Kench or Ashe to kind of impact a play.
Yeah, and I think for the side of DFM, you know, defensive vision certainly is nice. You know, there's a lot of wards kind of over here on this side of the map for them. You can see, you know, they have pink wards and kind of vision wards in this area, just trying to protect Ceros as they're looking mid lane.
He's a bit of engaged here. Yutapon taking a bit of damage. Good buffer there. Galio dash is going to take him out to safety. So far, no major cooldowns burned, but INTZ threatening. Hope not going to connect either. Envy feels like if he hit Yutapon there, we may have seen the full commit to the fight, but both sides just backing off for now. INTZ, though, definitely have control of mid lane before Evie gets there. Ceros, a lot of potential engage ultimates for him to take away if he wants to be the catalyst to get a fight started. INTZ will get mid priority here. The question is, what are they going to do with it?
Yeah, they did at the very least pull, you know, the solo laners out of the side lanes and back to mid lane as DFM's bot lane looks to reset. IE is now complete for Yutapon. That is a monstrously strong 2 items. Very, very expensive build, but because, you know, Yutapon is not getting pressured, he is not really being forced to actually fight. He has been able to kind of have the luxury of going for that, and DFM now may lose this bottom turret as a result of their kind of
Ceros. Rek'Sai spotted out there. Ceros definitely going to be in trouble here. Takes the Rek'Sai ult. Will buy him a bit of time before the rest of the team can get here. But INTZ not willing to pull the trigger. See that Rek'Sai ult. Remember what happened last time and do not want to commit. Heavy threatening on the flank as well. Just getting scarier and scarier on this Vladimir. A bit more cooldown reduction. Level 2 in the Hemo Plague.
Yeah, we'll see if DFM actually has the confidence to try to take this fight now. Tay will be able to knock down a turret, but this is, you know, next Dragon, a few more minutes have passed. Ceros gonna have to TB back in.
Gaeng now caught out, the rest of the team moving in. We'll see what the Vladimir can get done. Hemo Plague is gonna hit 2. Shini now running for his life. Ceros immediately onto the back line. Mills is gonna be in trouble, but RedBert says no. Tay trying to find steal, will instantly delete the Jarvan, but in a trade for his own life. Tonka land, Gaeng flashes forward, hits RedBert as well. Shini off the flank wants to get something done, but he's just not impacting the fight. The Rek'Sai is invisible, but the stolen Rek'Sai will put Ceros right on top of Mills. Another one is going to drop. Mills trying to go for the outplay. The rest of the team is here. They're on the way. Ceros is going in with the shield, and he's going to take him down again on the edge of death. But Ceros comes out on top.
4 for 1 for DFM. Massive team fight for them. And that has got to feel so, so bad for INTZ. Not only will they get decimated in the fight, they're going to lose the Dragon here to boot. DFM going to be in such a strong position off of this. Yes, they lost the turret, but winning a team fight at this stage in the game really kind of spells disaster, it feels like, for INTZ, who's going to be in such a difficult position later.
Absolutely fearless. You can see the confidence right now for this Detonation FocusMe lineup. As Yutapon going to try to grab a mid lane tower as well. 2 items now on the Sivir, matched by the Ashe, but just gets scarier and scarier as we look back at this.
Yeah, and Evie was really, really huge in that fight. You can see him charging up and being able to get that empowered Q off. Shini is pushed out of the fight almost immediately, and Ceros is doing such a good job actually kind of zoning for the rest of the team. As the Hecarim dives in, Shini has already been pushed out of the fight, so there's not really any dive buddy for him. So everyone is going to turn back onto the Hecarim, knocking him out as Ceros is chasing Mills out. They're able to focus down the Tahm Kench, and then such good use of stopwatches in this team fight really did buy a lot of time for Steel and Ceros in particular to be able to have very, very effective team fights and to kind of get out of there alive, especially for Ceros. And you can see how effective Vladimir was in that team fight. Evie got so much AoE damage off, and this is just going to get harder and harder and harder for INTZ.
And it does feel like INTZ weren't comfortable 100% when it came to that teamfight execution. They are going to try to rinse and repeat, though. Flash away on the arrow. Shini could be in trouble. The flag and drag forward. Shini now going to take the tunnel back. INTZ still fishing, still looking for that opportunity.
Yeah.
But
I mean, we really need to see Tay. If he's going to dive like that, it's got to be at the exact same time as the Ashe arrow, as the Nautilus diving in, as the Rek'Sai going forward, right? They all have to be kind of on the same page because one member from their team is not going to be enough to kind of solo make it happen, especially through the peel that is going to be offered by Gaeng.
And INTZ's incredible team fighting wasn't exactly what won them the finals. It was a lot of picks in the mid game, leading to advantage states, whereas DFM were very clearly the best team fighting team in Japan. Used champions where they could abuse it. Tahm, Kench, Kindred were teams who were less experienced would get caught out by those cooldowns, and now you can see with the Vladimir, they're just pushing that advantage. They're shoving it in the face of INTZ, and it's only going to get harder from here.
Yep, definitely is, but INTZ still a lot of time to make things happen, and a game certainly can turn on a pick. As you said, that there was more how they had a lot of the success in CBLOL, and they do have a lot of ability to actually find those picks here, certainly. So we'll see. I do think they may want to try to make some of their plays happen more in the side lanes, though. As they're going to Heavy.
The big outplay. Goes down, but just takes his own health. Guy's immediately going to get burned down by the Ignite. Well played by Tay there. Those are the picks we were talking about, but don't expect them in the 1v1.
Yeah, that was huge from Tay, to be able to actually take down Evie. Evie still had the Zhonya's. It maybe could have actually Zhonya's off the Ignite, then had the empowered Q to perhaps survive. Either way, really nice outplay, and this is something that is going to get them a lot more time. Dropping the Ignite fairly early here, so there's not a tremendous amount of healing that can actually come back through for Evie. Would have needed to try to Zhonya's there, but even then, I'm not sure if he would have survived.
And just very, very well played by Tay to come out on top there, but it does feel like a bit of a fumble from Evie in those small circumstances, and now it puts the Hecarim in a very dominant position. Of course, Vladimir on 2 items, but the Hecarim kind of terrifying in that 1v1 duel scenario, especially when the Ignite is available. And Evie has to be careful because he is pretty much everything for his team's full-on 5v5.
Yeah, he's definitely a very, very strong member of it. And I do think he'll be fine still in the 1v1 against Tay. He has to be pretty respectful of the all-in, but besides that, you can obviously poke away at the Hecarim and sustain and constantly harass him. So just going to have to respect that all-in. We'll see, though, if they're going to look to engage.
Sunlash comes out. Jarvan going to be stunned, but the flag and drag still takes him to safety. Threatening with the taunt. Gaeng doesn't want anyone else to follow up, and play will get disengaged. Could see the Rek'Sai come out, but feels a bit too high risk, low reward. INTZ instead will set their sights on the mid lane tower.
Now, this is honestly really nice from INTZ, setting up vision around the Baron. Again, trying to threaten with this engage. They're not quite able to take Steel down, but they do at the very least force Ceros to come back to mid lane. They got Evie out of that side lane as well, so they're trying to force the hand of DFM, trying to force them into these team fights before they really want to opt into it. And they are able to, at the very least, get some pressure off of this. But Sivir now on 3 items, PD picked up. That just makes the dive that much harder for champions like the Hecarim, like the Rek'Sai, who are now going to have to deal with that lifeline passive.
And we now have, double stopwatch, or double hourglass coming out for both Evie and Ceros, so that does limit a lot of the engaged potential options. You look at Tay, relatively easy ult to stopwatch if you see it's coming. And the same is true for Envy. You already mentioned it. Nautilus's worst nightmare is someone on the enemy team having the arrows, because it just eats the cooldown. You don't get anything back.
It's really interesting also to see Gaeng's build here going for the Righteous Glory instead of a more kind of defensive option. He is saying, all right, well, I'm one of the main forms of engage, so being able to threaten the Righteous Glory into a Just Punch taunt, something along those lines. is pretty neat. I do think that you can question the value of that versus just something like a Knight's Vow when you already have such incredible team fighting, but perhaps because of that reason, they don't feel that they need to invest heavily into it and would rather kind of shore up some of their weaknesses, such as being good.
And Gaeng, of course, does like to be a big playmaker as well, so maybe making the choice that's right for him as opposed to the choice that's right for the team. But now stealing the arrow, taking it away. Tahm Kench trying desperately to split Mills out, but Mills on the run, Evie standing. And just continue to extend the trade. The pool already used, but the rest of the team just falling apart. Mills is going to go down. RedBert next. Goes gold.
Tay.
But I don't think anything else is going to happen. Tay is backing off. They don't want to extend the fight. They lose 2, and they get nothing back. On the side of INTZ, Detonation FocusMe with a highway straight to the Baron if they want to go for it.
Yeah, I think they could very easily start this up. They still have the Galio ultimate. They still have the Vladimir ultimate as well. And Gaeng could threaten a turn here, so INTZ going to be in a really rough position. This Baron is going down.
Heavy now trying to extend it. He's got the chemo play going down. Goes golden on the side of Shini. Vladimir will go into the pool. Will come out a little bit more damage. Shini running now for his life. Ceros wants to get it going. Hecarim on the backside wants to turn the play. Shini taken down. Evie's still alive. A lot's going to come down to what Tay can do, but he's taunted up. Does get one. Looking for the second one as well. Vladimir with a bit of healing is going to get taken out. Tay now starting to pop up, but the Baron has been taken down, and Yutapon has arrived to the fight. Big damage on the Boomerang Blade, but it does not connect. RedBert returns, Mills here as well, and INTZ hold on, but lose the Baron in the exchange.
Yeah, it is kind of the 2-for-1 in that fight around the Baron at the end, but in the larger exchange, DFM get the Baron, got the initial kills, so they certainly come out very far ahead off of this.
Yutapon has to be careful.
They should be able to take this turret. They're going to be able to grab it, and very nicely done to trade something back, but still DFM feels like they are very much in control of this game. Tay has been a bright spot, you know, picking up those 2 kills on the soul laners in the team fight was very big to especially deny those Baron buffs, you know, keep those out of the side lanes. But here it is one more time. Ceros stealing the Ashe ulti. Tahm Kench in position to actually, you know, devour him up, but RedBert could not flash over the wall. Jarvan's ultimate kind of blocked him away from that, and then they fully commit to the dive onto Mills. Tay elects to try to walk up instead of teleporting, and as a result, isn't actually here in time. Then DFM just starting up the Baron 2-man. They have Gaeng, Ceros, Evie feeling like they can win this 3v3. So they do look for the turn, and in the eventual play are able to kill Shini, and more importantly, keep him away from the Baron so DFM can finish it off. But that being said, Tay still full health, does ultimate in, and is able to clean up both of the soul laners here. Ceros and Evie both getting chopped down.
Just the longer that Hecarim stays in the fight, the more terrifying he gets. The Rampage stacks, the Conqueror as well, but very fortunate that they were able to make it out in time, that they had the Tahm Kench, the Ashe coming in there as well. You can now see them returning to mid lane. Try and hold here against the Baron. It will be very difficult for them to do anything to the empowered cannon creep. Don't have a ton of range, but it looks like Detonation FocusMe not opting to step forward to try to protect it. Mills will get to take that one for free. 1 hit on the tower. I wonder if it's giving INTZ a bit of a false sense of safety here, but now they have all 5 members strong, where you can see Evie still on the bottom side, of course, does have the TP, but Detonation FocusMe know what it means to fight without him.
Yeah, and Evie now has Death Cap Gold, so that is a massive power spike, but INTZ are looking for the potential flank here.
It's a good opportunity for INTZ. Evie is not in the fight. He's backed up. He's about the Death Cap. He's looking for the back line. Mills is going to be in trouble. The Stolen Ult does knock him up. The rest of DFM surviving, but Evie instantly onto the 80 carry. Tay in the middle of the rest of the team. He's going to get taken out. Evie now going to be free to just pop off in this back line. The Vladimir just bleeding them out on the side of INTZ. Steel stepping forward. One last hit on the tower. There's the Righteous Glory. The taunt not quite going to connect as Envy Spider-Man's his way to safety. The rest of the team, though, not going to give him any mercy. Detonation FocusMe clean house.
I think they could actually just end the game here, potentially. They have the Baron buff. They TP'd back in with Yutapon, and they're going to look for it.
Pushing down, they're so incredibly strong. They still have 38 seconds left. The Sivir just tearing through the creep waves. They have more than enough damage here to end the game. It is all on Mills, but I don't think he's going to get the opportunity to do so. Disaster for INTZ as they are set to go 0-3, but Detonation FocusMe here in the first game of the day, making good on their promise to find those opportunities as they pick up the win.
Very impressive game here from DFM. They picked for scaling, and they closed out the game in just about 30 minutes. It was only going to get worse from there for INTZ, who just wasn't able to really get it ever going. It didn't feel like they were able to make the most of their opportunities in the early game. They weren't able to find those critical engages when they needed them. And DFM honestly just played the map so much better than INTZ, splitting their attention, pulling them to these side lanes constantly, and that just bought enough time for them to get their critical items and then clean up in the team fights.
And I think the thing we're learning about Detonation FocusMe is if you play a slow game against them, they are one of the most comfortable teams scaling, of making the most, of stalling, and then when they actually do go into those late game team fights, they're just so consistent executing because they've just done it so much domestically.
Yeah, and it's so interesting to see them play this style, right? Because I do think that some of their opponents may not be used to playing against so many scaling champions and maybe not realizing how much of a clock they're really on. But when you're going to go up against, you know, Vladimir and Kayle in the top lane, both of those champions alongside Ziggs, Kai'Sa, Sivir, like they pick so much scaling in their compositions that teams need to pressure them and punish them heavily, and if you're not able to do so, DFM almost gets a free win, and it feels like DFM is so adept at actually slowing down the pace of the game, at pulling your team to the side lanes, at delaying until they get what they want.
And it worked out so incredibly well for them across this game. It was just a lot of fumbles, honestly. When we did see INTZ finally get the confidence to say, hey, we can make the play, there were a lot of missed Ashe arrows. You saw a lot of disjointed team fights, and sadly, when they were finally ready, past the 20-minute mark to fish for plays, Evie was just so incredibly strong. Yutapon, who was very far ahead in lane, was incredibly strong as well, and the Sivir just feels like it started to take over.
And I think you have to give a lot of credit also to the DFM coaching staff. I think that their draft was really, really smart. They did target Envy very, very heavily, both in the bans and then also picking away some of his champions that he does like to play. So, you know, he was pushed pretty far down as far as the champion pool goes. That alongside the fact that we saw, you know, Steel doing this kind of split map jungling, playing to his strong side, avoiding any potential pitfalls where he would have been stuck against the Rek'Sai and the Hecarim in a 2v2 or anything like that. He really just kind of circumvented that entirely and was able to stay on even keel with the Rek'Sai despite 2 losing solo lanes in the early game.
And then just kind of outvaluing in the team fights, honestly, because despite the fact that Shini built up an individual advantage, he never turned it into anything. That extra jungle CS did not amount to much. But of course, when we talk about player of the game, you know, there's a lot of different players you want to talk about given how much of a team game this was from DFM, but Yutapon kind of did stand above the rest. He got that bottom side jungle attention, and he made it work in those late game team fights. He was the guy taking the Baron. He was the guy in that last fight killing the Hecarim, who was the biggest threat, and whole team was willing to play around him to do it.
Yeah, Yutapon definitely had a very, very solid game. Deathless, you know, not a lot to criticize there. I do think that there was some really big contributions across the board, though. I did think that Gaeng played a fantastic game. Both Evie and Ceros were in with a chance there, too. You know, really did look strong, and DFM certainly looking like, you know, a team that could challenge Vega at the top of this group.
The question is, though, how do they match up against Vega's crazy style? Will, you know, now that on blue side, do they get the Heimerdinger? Does Gadget take it away? There's a lot of things that I want to see because I feel like when it comes to crazy picks, DFM and Vega are both willing to fight fire with fire. And I would love to see Vega match them in scaling, or for DFM to show us something more, to show us something much more early game focused from this team, which is something that we just haven't seen yet.
Yeah, but I mean, until someone punishes you for going late, why change it,
I
right?
mean,
if no one can stop you from playing Vladimir and Kayle every game, play Vladimir and Kayle every game.
Ultimately, it gets the wins on the board. That's all that matters. Well, we're going to step away, but when we return, Mega tries to take down Vega Squadron to kick off their day 3. We'll see you after this break. May just try to go in with the ultimate, a lot of CC, but the dash out is nice. The knockup still comes in, and Ceros goes down. The sidestep, though, beautiful from Ceros. The flash gets a bit of damage down, uses the ultimate. Ceros still alive, goes under himself, makes it out. I can't believe it. Hey, trying to find Steel, will instantly delete the Jarvan, but in a trade for his own life, Tonka land, Gaeng flashes forward, hits RedBert as well. Shini off the flank wants to get something done, but he's just not impacting the fight. Bills is going to be in trouble. The stolen ult does knock him up. The rest of DFM surviving, but Evie instantly onto the 80 carry. Tay in the middle of the rest of the team. He's going to get taken out. Evie now going to be free to just pop off in this back line.
So Josh, you going for our Drive Safe and Save discount?
Yep, using the app, driving safe. You wanna go? You wanna go, bro? Hey, do not mess with my discount. Woo! You can save up to 30%. Let's go! Nice to meet you. Go get him, Tiger. Woo!
Sounds like you've got this.
Yeah, definitely.
Get a discount up to 30% with Drive Safe and Save from State Farm.